Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Monster Report, a show highlighting those entertaining creatures of film history. Nick Adam Poling, your host here, and I hope you're excited to be here on this broadcast. I'm certainly excited because anytime I get the chance to talk to some kaiju content creators, I just love it because we talk kind of the same language. We're not just kaiju fans, but we're also either YouTubers, podcasters, artists, authors, anyone who has something that is kaiju related that they like to put their creative edge on. And that's why I'm excited to bring on my good friend Donny Winter onto the Monster Report. Donny, how you doing?
I am doing quite well, Nick. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. How are you?
Doing excellent, and it's a beautiful September day here in Indiana, and we had the collaboration on your show not too long ago, and it's just aired recently. So I figured we'd spin the tables and talk some Growing Up with Godzilla on the guy who hosts the show, kind of entitled Growing Up with Godzilla. And you've had other guests on your show talking about their kaiju upbringing and all. Run through a few of the guests. Maybe some people might know that you've had on as guests.
So, of course, I've had you. I've had Matt Frank. I've had OmniViewer. I've had Kaiju Kim, Alyssa Goji Geek 101. Quite a few different individuals. And truthfully, I've been having so much fun doing this show because it has given me a chance to just nerd out with everyone else and talk about like how we kind of got acquainted with Godzilla in the first place. And of course, my show as well focuses a lot on like writers and artists who are, connected to the fandom in some way and using the fandom as some sort of outlet.
That's right. And we'll get into your kaiju upbringing in a minute. But one of the things that's cool about, watching your shows and others, like you mentioned, is that maybe I didn't hear about that content creator or the other one. I knew Kaiju Kim, but I didn't know OmniViewer, for instance. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to check out his channel now, and saw some great content there too. And his unique way of doing things. And then had Kaiju Kim on the show and getting her perspective on things. It's just the fun never ends with that, and getting kind of people's upbringing, their background and all that. And speaking of Kaiju Kim,
Kaiju Kim is here, my twin. It's good to see you.
I love what she said. It's like, Donnie's my twin. We're so different in every other way, but on what you love, on the stuff you're interested in, it's symbiotic, I guess.
It's funny because Kaiju Kim was my first guest on Growing Up with Godzilla, and I reached out to her and I was just like, you know what, you got to be my first guest. But like, just a funny little story about how the show started, and then we can move on to the next thing, of course. But so I, for a long time, have kind of mulled around the idea of just doing a show talking about like people's history with Godzilla, how they've grown up with the character, how the franchise has changed as they've grown as individuals. And it really kind of came to fruition when I found an old drawer of terrible color penciled comic books that I used to draw when I was like a preteen. I didn't realize I still had them, but I still have them. And I was like, you know what? This is the catalyst. I'm going to start doing the show. It's got to happen. It's got to happen.
Right. Yeah. And it's so cool to go back, rustle through those old cabinets and drawers and boxes and tubs of things that we used to. I remember writing up my own fan kind of comics too as a kid. And yeah, if I were to look at that now, it'd be like, oh my, what was I thinking? But the seeds were planted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got Godzilla Train. Adrian's in the house. Good to have you.
Good to see you, Adrian. Long time no talk. We were literally just talking like a day ago. So,
and he was recently on that Sci-Fi Nerds show talking some Tremors, another, kind of, I wouldn't say obscure, but some people don't know it. If they didn't grow up.
Say cult classic.
Yeah, definitely. And so, when it comes to, those old, like you said, the old comics, the old things that when you go back and you look at your childhood, and how you ended up as a Godzilla fan, kaiju fan, giant monster fan, what have you. Where did it all begin for Donnie?
Ooh, chapter one. Just kidding. So for me, it began with my parents, actually. My parents were kind of low-key Godzilla nerds. And when my brother and I have a little brother, when he and I got to like our late single digits in age, they started introducing us to Godzilla. And my brother got into Godzilla first. And I remember one night he was sitting and watching the original Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. And like at first I was just like, what is this? What am I watching? And then I got into it and I was just like, okay, this is actually really good. Like had me on the edge of my seat, and then it just spiraled from there. We ended up watching the entire Showa era Godzilla films. I know I became obsessed with Mothra at a certain point, because I had watched Ibera Horror of the Deep, and I was just like, what is this giant, gorgeous, beautiful moth thing? Like, I want to know more about this character. And then, of course, I watched Mothra versus Godzilla, the original Mothra, and it went on. Of course, then it kind of expanded into my parents bought us like the Trendmasters Godzilla figure sets way back in like the early 90s. I still have some of them. The ones that survived me playing with them, constantly.
Right.
But like it was like it just was one thing after another at a certain point. Like my family would go traveling and I would just like wait with bated breath for them to bring some sort of Godzilla related thing home. So truthfully, it started when I was probably in second or third grade. And I ended up being that, resident nerd at my school that, was getting everybody else into Godzilla. My mission in life was to be like, hey, have you watched this giant dinosaur? Like, please. And then I just probably some of my fondest memories were playing Godzilla on the playground as a kid a lot. Yeah, it was really wholesome. It was really
Yeah.
wholesome. It's
And
a Cliff Notes version.
yeah, absolutely. We'll get into as it kind of grew in you, and kind of how people's reaction was to that. We've got Stephen Patrick Lee in the house. Used to draw comics as well. I need to find some of my old comics that I drew, if they've even, like you said, survived the course of time, like the Trendmasters. And
Steven, have you posted them anywhere? I'm curious now.
yeah. And Steven's a hoot. If you know him on Facebook, he is hilarious. Godzilla Fan Freaks is in the house. What's up, man? Looking forward to the Kaiju Chill O'Clock that's happening Friday. And then Kaiju Kim, Donnie, next year's G-Fest, you and I need to dress up as Shobajin. All right.
Is the world ready for that?
Is it truly?
I've always wanted to be Mole from the Mothra trilogy, so maybe we'll see.
There you go. So, and I know, yeah, you've frequented G-Fest a few times, or is it? Yeah,
I've been to G-Fest about 4 or 5 times. Yeah, my first G-Fest was in 2007. It was ironic. I was on a message board, and actually owned the message board. It was called Kaiju Galaxy, where we were collaborating on a giant piece of collaborative fan fiction called When Aliens Attack, and we were invited to do a panel on it. So that's how I ended up going to my first G-Fest. It was terrifying, but also exciting at the same time. But like it was really fun being able to like represent my website at that time, being able to talk about fan fiction, which I'm very passionate about. Like that was an early full circle moment for me. Got to meet like some of the actors and actresses back then, got to connect with a lot of friends that I had only known online for the first time ever. So it was really fun.
That is the wonderful thing about those cons, when you get to meet people you've talked to, you almost know them. And then when you see each other, maybe the only thing you're surprised at is how tall or short they are, right? And that's about it. Other than that, you've already connected. So
Exactly. I didn't end up going back to G-Fest until like 2017 or 2018 when Megumi Odaka was a guest, because I was like, I gotta meet Miki Sakusa, like,
Right.
because like in my own fan fiction, like her character was like always the central character, and I was just like, the stars are aligned for this to happen, so it must. And I remember meeting her, and I like cried afterward. It was pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
It was pretty messy. Thankfully, she did not see me crying, but you know. Hey.
Oh, I was gonna say she's probably had that. I mean, she's probably had a lot of adoring fans that have just said, that you're my hero, things like this, wanting her to sign
Right.
obscure things, dressing up as her. Who knows? I mean, she's seen it all
I
probably.
just remember going in, like, because like I met her a few times at G Fest there, because like she was around, you know. But like when we like did like the photo ops and stuff like that, I was just like, Donny, you gotta keep your crap together. Like you gotta like make sure that you don't get, you know, terrifying around her. So
Uh, and to
thankfully.
anyone who is non-Godzilla fan, she's just another person. But
Yep.
to us, it's shaped our childhood, our upbringing. You may have seen, I'm guessing, the Millennium series when it was starting to come out in the later 90s. So I guess you were probably in your, maybe teens when you started seeing them. And but even then, that character and the Heisei series. If I said Millennium earlier, sorry. Godzilla fans are blowing
I
their
knew
heads.
what you meant.
Yeah, sorry. Sometimes I put my foot in my mouth. So it comes down to like your starting point. Your starting point was actually with Showa, like myself. And so obviously we had our VHS tapes, we had our direct television broadcasts that we got to see, rental stores, but then later we got to see the great secret, which was this series called the Heisei series with this recurring character. And
right. Well, I mean, I think we had hints that the Heisei era existed. Like I remember, and I think we talked about this on our episode of my show that I do, but I remember being introduced to the return of Godzilla pretty early on, and then Godzilla versus Biollante. So like I knew that there was something that took place afterward, especially when I got those Trendmaster figures. Like I was just like, what is this? What is this Godzilla with crystals on him? I have no idea. What is this creepy black looking Mothra thing that's kind of terrifying with horns? Like what is this? So like at that point in time, like I think I knew that it existed, but of course in the late 90s it hadn't been like brought to America yet. So
yeah, I even
took
think
those
they
films
made
a
him.
long time.
Yeah, and then they make a Mecha King Ghidorah. I remember getting too, and it was like, this is awesome. I've got to see this film.
Oh,
It was just a long wait. And yeah, it was just like, finally we get to see what the big deal was. We've got Walter Ross in the house.
Walter,
Good to
my
see you, Walter.
friend. We finally got to meet at G Fest this year. It was wonderful.
Yeah, I have got to get Walter on my show. We have kept talking about it. Everything keeps getting in the way. We're gonna have him.
I need to get him on my show too.
Yeah.
See, networking. That's why we do what we do.
Yeah, there's no shortage of content when we do this networking with each other, when we get collaborating and all that. And I've talked about that before on other shows, that I think we're better together. We build each other up. We point out, what you're doing, what I'm doing, and every once in a while it might be, hey, I need some advice. How is it that you make this technical thing work? And would you go with this approach or not? The feedback is always good, and it's not to be critical. I think it's to critically help and to critically assist. I'd rather see us all do better, because what we do is not. It's not necessarily Marvel or DC, those are the popular things.
Right.
But Godzilla's becoming more popular. The kaiju,
Well,
yeah,
like I think any flourishing creator should have some sort of passion for growth, right? At least in my personal opinion. I know, like for me, like if I wasn't open to that criticism and I didn't have that passion for growth, like I would feel very stagnant as a creator, So
exactly. And leading into being able to be a content creator. You're a YouTuber. You've been on YouTube for a certain amount of years. I'm going to let you get the chance to talk about how you got started. What was the catalyst? What was the final thing that pushed you over the edge to say let's do this? Let's get this channel started.
Well, I've actually been doing YouTube since around 2007. I had an old YouTube channel that no longer exists. It was mostly just like vlogging, ranting, being obnoxious in general. And then I like gradually, probably about like 10 to 12 years ago, I created my Donny Winter channel. And initially it kind of served as like a channel where I would vlog, but I would like do commentary about like current events, pop culture, etc. I used to love doing a lot of like video responses, where like I would engage in conversation with people. I do a lot of videos talking about the LGBTQ plus experience, etc., and bullying. But then I started realizing that I was like, I want to do more. Like I want to expand. So then I started doing like more Godzilla related content. And I know like one of the big no-nos usually for creating a YouTube channel is like stick to one topic. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm the kind of person where I'm like, there's more to me than just one thing. So like I want what I'm creating to reflect that in some way. So that's why the Godzilla content started filtering in. Mostly I would just do like, analysis videos, reviews, etc. But now, of course, it's kind of turned into growing up with Godzilla. Like I do, like that's a show that I've been doing regularly since earlier this year. There's another podcast I do called Restitching the Tapestry that I do with my friend Ari that we've been doing for like since the beginning of the pandemic. That was kind of like our pandemic passion project. So my channel, I think, tries to, well, hopefully achieves covering a lot of different bases. So there's something I think for everyone to enjoy.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You can watch these videos, that videos. You've got, you separate them maybe into playlists, things like that. Sometimes people like the box days. Sometimes people like the trailers. Some people like what we're doing, this live back and forth. And so maybe they could leave those other things behind. Hey, there's a little something for everybody. And I think that's what's great about it. And the rules of YouTube, do this, do that. I think some of the best creators are the ones who break those rules and not just break them, but do make creative decisions to get around those different rules and say, my channel is unique because of this. And, I think I have something to say. And I why would I create a channel if I have nothing to say? Why would I create a channel if all you're going to do is just look at a picture of something and, you can have a voiceover of me? I like to really explain it and engage with people. And that's, I think, the outlet and the reason why we do this.
Mm-hmm. Like early on for me, when my main channel first started, I think a lot of it also was that I was at a very interesting place in my life where I just felt like I wasn't being seen or heard. So I immediately turned to the internet as some way to connect with people and to, represent myself in some way. And I think YouTube became the best way to do that. I've always been like significantly an introvert. And I argue that YouTube over the years has actually helped me become a skilled public speaker, someone who's not afraid of engagement, etc. So like not only has it served as an outlet, but I think that YouTube for me has served as some mode for growth socially. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting.
And anyone could do, let's say, an audio only podcast. And I think the people who do audio only podcasts are great at what they do. Sometimes they're just like, you know what, I've got something to say, but I don't necessarily have something to show, and so I was always a visual kind of person. So YouTube became the go-to, and I think that's how you feel too. It's like sometimes I want to talk with my hands. I want to, I want them to see the smile.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm the same way.
Yeah, I want them to see the facial expression I get. And some people can really convey that really well with their voices. But I also like to show. And of course, if I'm going to do box days, if I'm going to do trailers, it's going to be a visual medium. And so, but I also love this, that we have the live chat and we've got a great kaiju family in here that loves both of our channels. And I want people to, if you're new here, that you go to Donny's page, on his channel, and you also follow him. I know you're on Facebook and Twitter as well. Instagram, I assume, too.
Instagram, TikTok, on TikTok, I don't do a lot of Godzilla content, but I would say that definitely YouTube is the best place to follow me if you want like Godzilla related stuff for sure.
And very easy, just Donny Winter.
Yeah.
Yep. And we'll give you the chance at the end again to plug away again so that you get the chance to do that.
It's interesting that you were talking about like this kind of like small close-knit family that we've created, because I would argue that like 2 to 3 years ago I never really identified myself as a kaiju tuber. But then like once I started doing a bit more Godzilla content, like I would have other people be like, Donny, you're a kaiju tuber, blah, 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 blah. I was just like, I guess I never really thought of identifying that way. But now that I do, like I've felt very welcomed and included, and it feels really great. So I do think that we have a great close-knit family, and I appreciate it so much.
And so you probably surprised some people when it came to the point where it's like, well, of course, yeah, Godzilla. He's something I grew up with, and something that's been part of my upbringing. But you surprised some people too, right? It's like that maybe you didn't seem like you would be a kaiju fanatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I've actually had this conversation quite often, and it's had some interesting response from people. But one thing that I always share is, like, obviously I'm an LGBTQ plus person, if that wasn't obvious. But when I was growing up, like Godzilla kind of became that character that helped me keep going despite like, adversity that I was facing, So like I've always connected Godzilla closely to that survival, like Godzilla can triumph against these foes, like so can I. And I've had people be like, an LGBTQ plus Godzilla fan, what? Like, and I'm just like, yes, we do exist. We are here. Even though it doesn't seem, like it would be possible, but it is.
And you've also spoken about the bullying aspect, and even someone who would consider themselves very nerdy, very, into the nerd culture, and in Godzilla, I consider that too, because we're not, necessarily into the sports ball. We're not in,
Definitely not me.
It's like, oh, good, score more points, win game, and it's like,
that's oh, go ahead.
No, that's all I'm saying is like that could be what we were all into, and it could be very accepted, as a child growing up and even into adulthood. That's very acceptable, and it seems like, well, this is almost fringe. This is out there, and it's why I got nothing to talk to you about. So I feel like that's one thing that we can connect with, even if we may not share a same lifestyle, but we connect on this level too.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I love the most about this community, is I do feel like we have a very diverse community with people from many different walks of life, and I feel like that we can kind of understand one another and develop an appreciation for one another based on the stories that we share. Again, that's another reason why I also wanted to do my show Growing Up with Godzilla, because it kind of serves as that outlet. But speaking of Godzilla as being kind of like that niche genre that kids are into sometimes, like that like nerd culture, right? Like I've in my conversations with Godzilla fans, it's been pretty universal for me to hear from other people that at one point or another, as a Godzilla fan, they felt pretty isolated or alone, or even sometimes judged, right? Um, so like I remember when I was a kid, like I would have people be like, "When are you gonna grow up? When are you gonna get over liking Godzilla?" And I'm just like, "Well, I'm in my mid-30s now, and I still like Godzilla, so the jokes, the joke's on you."
Yeah. Yeah. The bullying, yeah, that could be part of that. And it's like, yeah, you could brush it off your shoulder, but a lot of the times being in like a public school setting, you're always around those bullies. And I always feel like, this is Godzilla, he's got the toughness, he's got the unstoppable kind of nature. And I think that's kind of like the big brother kind of aspect of who Godzilla, how we relate to him when we're in the nerd culture, into Star Trek, Star Wars, things like that too, and other IP that again is not the sports ball. It's not the mainstream, as you will. But it's funny how things that we might have been into that were less popular then, and now Legendary comes out with these films, and it's kind of cool again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And now people are like, "Godzilla's really awesome." I'm just like, "Where have you been? Where have you been the past 20 years?"
Yeah, exactly. Been around a long time, and I've even remembered a time when I had the age shock when I realized somewhat of my own age when someone saw that my kid had a Godzilla plush, and it was like, "Oh, look at that Reptar plush that you've
Oh,
got."
no.
And it was like, "Reptar? Oh, wow." I was like, "I remember Reptar." And I
Oh,
was like,
no.
yeah, so I was like, "Okay, sit down. I've got to explain something." So,
Let's start
uh,
at the beginning.
right. Yeah. How much time do you have? Right.
Oh, it's too funny.
But so yeah, so the YouTube channel, speaking about not just your lifestyle, but you're also talking about some Godzilla. I know that you are also that you have a creative outlet in writing. And so
Yes.
I don't want to talk too much about what I have observed, but I want you to get
Oh,
the chance to explain kind of your writing style and something else that is part of your life too.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about writing because I feel like as creators, like we don't always have like the platforms and places to do that, you know. I am a published poet. I've actually had two collections of poems published through Alien Buddha Press, and both collections have like little morsels of Godzilla in them periodically. So I have my first collection was Carbon Footprint. It was released a couple of years ago during like the midpoint of the pandemic, and then I have Feats of Alchemy, which came out last year. This one has a lot more Godzilla stuff in it. Probably like obviously Godzilla I guess the reason I'm passionate about Godzilla in poetry is because from a metaphorical standpoint, Godzilla is super interesting because the character symbolizes like the specter of nuclear horror, right? And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna keep that specter of nuclear horror as being central here, but I'm also going to kind of really hone in on Godzilla as being like this abnormality, this othered character, right? And of course, from my perspective, myself, I have felt othered quite a bit, over the course of the years. So I was just like, I'm going to take that and run with it and see what I can do with it. So there's several poems and Feats of Alchemy, notably, that focus in on Godzilla as a character. This is shamelessly terribly nerdy. But I am obsessed with the mad scientist characters from Godzilla films.
Mm.
So I wrote a series of poems in Feats of Alchemy themed around some of the mad scientists. And kind of like like those poems kind of create like a commentary about like mental health and like keeping in mind like what ended up happening to those scientists and stuff like that. So I don't know if you like mind bending stuff, then that might be up your alley. So but
And I'm
but really though, it's been surreal having two books that have been pretty successful released, and I'm always excited to get other Godzilla fans into poetry as well, because I kind of feel like as an art form, like our fandom really hasn't delved significantly into that yet. We've seen a lot of like fan fiction, fan art, fan music, etc., but like poetry kind of hasn't really taken the stage quite yet. So
Without giving away too much of the story, because we want people to check it out for themselves, which mad scientist, because there's several in the Godzilla series, do you really find yourself keep going back to for that inspiration?
Dr. Shirogami from Godzilla vs. Biollante. Easy question to answer for me.
Yes.
So, like, honestly, I mean, I can't remember if I told you this, but Godzilla vs. Biollante is my favorite Godzilla film, which surprises people because Mothra is my favorite kaiju, right? But that film happens at the cusp of such an interesting time historically, where like the Cold War is kind of like coming to an end. There's like a lot of like political things happening, but there's also kind of like this 80s sci-fi grungy stuff taking place. But Dr. Shirogami, just like his motivations, to preserve his daughter in some way, right? In the form of like this, in the form of Godzilla cells and roses, goes awry. And it's like, to me, it's kind of like a modern day like Frankenstein story when you think about it. And I just think that his motivation comes from such a human place, but the result is such an inhuman result, and I love it. So I was just like, Dr. Shirogami is probably, in my opinion, one of the most interesting mad scientist characters. And I would even argue that he's not even entirely mad. He's pretty rational, but he is a human that makes a mistake like most humans do in Godzilla films.
And he was even willing to admit that mistake at a certain point. He's like, I think I may have made a mistake. And it's like, you think?
Right. Did I create something worse than Godzilla potentially? I don't know, maybe.
Right. Messing around with those Godzilla cells late at night with the storm in the
Oh
back.
yeah, that was such a great ominous scene. Oh, I love it. I need to watch that movie soon.
And
Uh,
I'm gonna steal some of Kaiju Kim's three questions. You've already talked about the growing up with Godzilla. How did you get into it? And your favorite Godzilla you've mentioned, but I'll do a little twist on that, because I like to ask the question not necessarily what is your favorite, but which one do you find rewatching? Because my favorite may not be the one that I put in as often, because I might have my kids that I like to show one to, or a friend over, and I always like to show them this one because it's like, I may have this one chance to make them a Godzilla fan. So I might grab a funny Godzilla, or one that's got a lot more action in it, things like that. But that's where the rewatchability is. So I've given you maybe a minute to think about rewatchability. It might even be your favorite.
oh yeah, so easy question to answer for me at least. So when it comes to personal rewatchability, like if I'm just relaxing and I just want to like watch a Godzilla film, my immediate go-to is usually Godzilla versus Mothra 92, because I love the musical score, and it's just I think it's a very beautiful movie, and I think that it's kind of criminally underrated in the grand scheme of Godzilla films, considering even to this day it's like in the top 3 most successful Godzilla films that have ever been made. But I digress. I find that film very comforting. I always have. But if I'm like, when it comes to watchability and I'm trying to introduce friends to Godzilla films, I usually go with the Kiryu saga. So Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, and then Godzilla Tokyo SOS, because I love people to be able to see like the breadth of that story, because I think those two films really do create such a fantastic story. And of course, it's my shameless way to get people into Mothra as well simultaneously. Now, if I were to pick a movie that I think is just like shameless fun that I love to watch, and this is probably going to be very unexpected for a lot of people, but Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla.
Hey, yeah.
I When I first saw the film, I was just like, what is this? But now I'm kind of like, this is such a fun, campy film for a Millennium series film. Like, it's so funny, like, but it's also like, it has some really larger than life characters that I just find very interesting.
Yeah. And it's one that when my kids ask about who's Megaguirus again, and it's like, well, that's a movie you're not going to be watching for a while. It's a bit on the violent side.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah, and yeah, that gory moment, like it's kind of scary. Like, yeah,
but yeah, but that is surprising. It is good, big wholesome fun, I guess, in a sense. I guess some of the safer ones we might say, watching with the kids, we can watch All Monsters Attack. We can watch some of the Showa. A lot of the times, not all the time, but a lot of the times the Showas are safe bets.
yeah,
But
hmm
yeah, but at the same time, yeah, when you're trying to say, yeah, I want to bring someone into the fandom, I want to show them something, and it's like unexpected. They didn't expect this level of quality when it comes to the action and the human story and all of that. And Biollante is a great choice too, but you also have the fact that there's existing lore that they may be maybe a little unfamiliar with. But yeah, the mad scientist aspect, I still love that film for that. And of course, Serizawa, very tragic mad scientist character, and then we've got, who was it? Terra Mechagodzilla. It's
Oh,
Mifune.
Katsura, and then Dr. Mifune.
Mifune, yeah, the mad
He's one of the
scientist.
people I also wrote a poem about.
Ah, good.
Not to
Yes.
spoil anything. He's another one of my favorites too. Um, so I would say if I were to think of another, because there's a couple other ones. I do know that I have shown Godzilla Final Wars to quite a few people, mostly because the movie is such a riot.
I
Like
know.
I was just like, do you want to see a riot of a film? Do you want to see Star Wars, Dragon Ball Z, Godzilla, and The Matrix thrown together in one film? Godzilla Final Wars. And every time I've had people watch it, they thought it was hilarious, but also fun. Um, I also introduced people to Shin Godzilla quite a bit over the past few years. Like I've been like, watch Shin Godzilla. It's kind of scary. Like let's do it. And they've enjoyed it quite a bit. And it's of course like a more like modern political, like socio-political commentary on things too. So I figured that might be a point of interest for some.
Yeah, absolutely. It is one that is maybe a little tough to get through for someone who's like, I want to see more of the monster action, but it's like, actually the human story is pretty interesting, but it also was controversial for its time. It's definitely takes some explanation talking about the Fukushima disaster and the earthquake and the tsunami that happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one that takes a little bit of maybe explanation as to the time period, which kind of, you think about the 54, it's right off of the back of a disaster that happened.
Oh yeah.
And here's a film,
Godzilla's always been a pretty good gauge for the socio-political climate of the world since, it was created back in 1954. Like The Return of Godzilla, for example. Like if you watch the original Japanese version, there is so much politics that and mind you, I love the American version, Godzilla 1985 as well. But like obviously because of Cold War tensions, like a lot of it is edited down and a lot of that like nuclear narrative is removed entirely. But like I think that's why I love the franchise so much as well, because it is that socio-political commentary. But then again, I'm a teacher for a living. I love analysis. I love making socio-political comparisons to things. So it's one of my other areas of nerdism. So I know it's not everyone's cup of tea because some people just want to watch Godzilla just to enjoy the fighting, enjoy the destruction. And sometimes I do too.
Adrian agreed with something you said. I think Adrian agrees with pretty much all that you're saying. I think it's been a little in the chat. I think we've enthralled them. We've mystified them.
Oh, my goal in life
say.
is to mystify.
Well, and has being a fan of kaiju, Godzilla specifically, opened up your love of other IP, whether it's other monsters or other sci-fi, other art, like getting into film myself was because of Godzilla. So that made me build an appreciation for Alfred Hitchcock, for instance, and some of the classics like that, and some of the classic, obviously Kurosawa. That opened up to seeing some of those films, something I didn't see as a kid, but then I was like, I saw the connections, and it's not a monster movie. He doesn't make monster movies, but he makes these great stories that I can explain to people, I can enthrall myself with, I can really draw myself into the characters he creates, because so it just brings out that. So has that getting into this fandom opened up yourself to other IPs you may have not have otherwise?
Yeah, at times it has. Like I know my love of Godzilla kind of opened me up to like more horror films, because I used to not really like horror films a lot, but like John Carpenter's The Thing, for example. Like I was just like, I'm gonna like like for me, terrifying film, but so interesting.
Isn't
Um
it?
yeah, like and like I know like for me, like I really started recently, believe it or not. This might appall some people. I have now gotten more so into like the Gamera movies. I remember seeing the 90s Gamera trilogy, but I had never watched the Showa era Gamera films. So like my summer challenge has been to watch the Showa era Gamera films. And
Yep.
they were entertaining in their own unique ways. So, but yeah, I would say that Godzilla definitely has opened me up to um a lot of other like genres sometimes. Like I know like I've really gotten into like a lot of anime, like kind of adjacently to Godzilla as well. So like once they started like bringing Godzilla into like the anime sphere of things, I was like nerding out. I was just like, yes, this needs to happen. So
And Walter really loved your comment about The Thing. Yeah, I'm surprised too about that, but it is a fascinating horror film that just draws you in to the whole survival of this group of oh man, I have to keep reminding people it's an all male cast, and they're trapped here with this monster that wants to kill them all. And I'm just like, it draws something very
oh,
surreal out in you.
the practical effect mastery of that film is
Yes.
astronomical. Like I know when I first watched it, like I was like the dog kennel scene destroyed me. Like I
Yeah.
remember I had to stop watching it at that point because I was just like I was like I can't. It looked too realistic, and this is a 1982 film and it's doing this to me. Oh, ooh.
Yeah. And yeah, good job, Donnie. Expand your horizons. Thank you, Adrian. Yes.
Oh, there's so many different fandoms and genres that I love. So, oh, between Godzilla, like the Lord of the Ring, like anything, the Tolkien Legendarium,
Yes.
Star Trek. Um, I do like some Star Wars. Like there's so much, so much.
Yeah. Yeah, Godzilla fan freaks like to your Mega Gearus talk about that. My buddy and I did some videos on his channel. He never saw any Godzilla films, and that was the one he chose. His reaction to the couple getting eaten was priceless. I'll have to check that one out.
Like,
Maybe it was jaw drop.
yeah, like I kind of want to see that too. That film, just to me, like obviously when you watch the film, it seems so campy, right? Compared to like Godzilla 2000 and Godzilla Mothra King Ghidorah All Out Monsters Attack, right? Um, but like there's just so many like unexpected extremes, like that horror scene of like the couple, getting eaten by, the what Meganula, I think that's what they were
Nula.
called.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then like we get like this weapon of mass destruction they introduced, which is like this black hole gun. Like it's like what is the science here? Like, what's going on here?
It's like let your mind go. Same thing, even with the pseudosciency oxygen destroyer kind of idea.
Right.
It is definitely pseudoscience, but it's almost believable, but only almost.
Right. I've already made the decision because like obviously Godzilla's gonna bleed into like my future poem collections. I want to write poems about like the weapons of mass destruction that we see in Godzilla films. Just for the fun of it, just to be like, okay, like what are the ramifications? What do they metaphorically represent, etc. So we'll see if that pans out, but it's on my agenda.
Yeah. Well, and that's something I might throw you a few ideas, because if you ever want to do like your video essays on a specific topic, answer me the question, why is it they never try the same thing twice? If it's almost going to work, they never try it again. It's like it almost did work. The anti-nuclear energy bacteria almost worked.
Mechagodzilla almost blowing up Godzilla's second brain in the Heisei era, like
Right.
that, like they almost won.
Right. So if you
Yes.
try again just with some modifications, I'll bet it'll work. But no, they say nope, didn't work the first time. So, but yet we built the Super X 3 times.
Oh my goodness! I mean, they did try to. They have frozen Godzilla more than once throughout the films, at least.
That is true.
So,
Yes.
like, I guess that's one thing that they've done consistently. But like, you're right. They pretty much have. They try something once and they're like, nope, nope. I know. I had one friend watch. Was it the Heisei Godzilla films with me? And they were like, I feel like the solution at the end of every film is like tossing Godzilla into the ocean and then it's over with. Like,
Yep.
like Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, Godzilla versus Mothra, just toss Godzilla in the ocean. That's all you need to do.
He is a sea monster after all, I guess. So if he's out there to sea, no harm, no foul, but he'll come back, just like any good monster. He can't be left down. One of the questions I forgot to ask earlier, and it was off of Kaiju Kim's list, was the non-Godzilla monsters that are out there. What would your favorite non-Godzilla monster be?
Oh, okay. So that kind of throws a wrench, because I was going to be like, I love the Mothra trilogy, because I could talk at length about that. But technically she's a Godzilla monster. But anyway, I would probably say
it could be Toho. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, and I'll talk about the Mothra trilogy in a minute. But like, I do love the Heisei Gamera films. I have to say that they are probably, aside from like the Mothra trilogy and the Heisei Godzilla series, my third favorite set of films. I also have a very, very strong love of the series Ultraman Nexus. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Some of it, yeah.
Yeah, like it's kind of darker and more grungy than other Ultraman shows. Like it's very like dark teenage drama. I don't know. That's why I love it so much. I would say that those two are probably the biggest ones for me. But I will say, and I know many of the listeners probably have listened to me talk about this on my own channel at length, but I get so angry that the Mothra trilogy is so underrated, because a lot of the people that hate the Mothra trilogy also love the Showa Gamera series, and I'm just like, they're all aimed at children. Like, can't we just think about that? But anyway, I feel like the Mothra trilogy was an experiment that Toho wanted to do in the late 90s, because they had finished up Godzilla, right? And they were like, we want to appeal to a younger audience. So they created like these very whimsical, colorful stories that involve like their second biggest character, that create like environmental commentaries, and I think that ultimately the show, or the movies, not only add personality to Mothra more so, but I think they also develop Mothra's priestesses astronomically more than any other film does. And the musical score, don't even get me started. Like Toshiyuki Watanabe's musical scores for those films, I think, are iconic. And so, yeah. So this is your homework, everyone. Go watch the Mothra trilogy if you haven't yet.
Yeah. And you can find it out there, I mean, very easily. I remember on DVD, like they released the first two and not the third. And then when they finally got Blu-ray, they released all three as a pack. And I was like, hey, yeah, there's what I was missing. So yeah, absolutely. The Mothra trilogy, if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth the watch. Remembering, like you said, aiming towards children. I definitely got the kind of the Power Rangers kind of vibe too from it,
Yes.
that it was like, I understand it was made for children during that time, but I could still enjoy it as an adult. But I guess it does come down to your starting point, right? If you didn't see it, maybe when you were younger, or didn't see it with that
Oh,
childlike
yeah.
awe.
And I'm not gonna lie, some of the best, like, I would argue, and of course many might disagree with me, some of the best kaiju battles are in those films.
Yeah.
Mothra versus Death Ghidorah in the first film. Insane battle, like, that
Yes.
lasts, like, half the movie, basically. The most heart-wrenching death scenes. Like, I remember I'm fairly sure that my depression started with Mothra dying in the first Mothra trilogy or film. Sorry, spoiler everyone if you've not seen it yet. But you
And-
can stream them on Amazon Prime, I'm fairly sure too.
oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've got Don Gully in the house. So, yeah,
Hello.
sci-fi nerds. And he's got some great content out there as well. I know Adrian was on his show not too long ago. He started an audio podcast as well. He loves your shirt. Can't go wrong with
Thank
that
you.
one.
I just subscribed to your channel, by the way, earlier today, so I'm excited to
Excellent.
check out your stuff.
Yeah. And then Adrian again, Mothra Trilogy, very underrated. Can't wait to have a discussion about this film with you. All right, excellent.
I'm ready to knock on people's doors with a pamphlet regarding the Mothra trilogy. Like, I will do it.
Even my children love it too, and it's like like you said, the battle scenes and letting people know kind of the blend that of the CGI tokusatsu. I love seeing when they can work together well. I think that the legendary films are good on their own too, but I also keep saying, but they're missing that charm of the tokusatsu
Oh,
and
yeah. Yeah.
actual people in suits and animatronics and puppetry and miniatures. You're missing that. And I know it's Hollywood. That's what they do. They default to the CGI. Is there anything about the legendary series that you could say, I guess you either appreciate it for what it's done or feel like it could have done more? Are you excited to see more from Legendary? I guess what's your overall reaction to what they put out?
I've really enjoyed the Monsterverse so far. I think that they've done a pretty good job working toward creating a cinematic universe, and I am excited to see what they have in store. My favorite film, of course, is Godzilla King of the Monsters, as I'm sure many of you can imagine. It's because Mothra's in it, right?
Yeah.
I do think that the Monsterverse has done a great job paying homage to the classic characters, to the music, to the tropes that we see in the films, etc. And I think that it definitely does a lot of fan service. But I also think that they've also tried to do some new stuff, which I appreciate. Would I like them to go further? Yes. One thing that I would like to see more three-dimensional human characters. Like, I kind of feel like the human characters have been uh, a little bit predictable from time to time, a little bit like just the writing, the dialogue, I think could be stronger. And I have no doubt that they will get there at some point. But I will say, like, Godzilla King of the Monsters, while for some reason back in, when was it, 2019,
Yeah.
it like got terrible critic reviews. Like, it was like fans loved it. Like, fans loved the film. I think that it did a great job, like, just bringing the wonder, the awe, and the sublimity of these characters to life. So, and I love what they did with Mothra, though I wish there would have been more of her and Rodan.
Yes.
Both.
Yeah. It did leave you wanting more, and I guess that's maybe that's maybe the goal of some films, especially the 2014. It left us wanting a lot more, so it was like 2019, tried to do that for us, but it was kind of like, how much more can we put into this? Human characters. Adrian agrees with you, and Alyssa apparently does agree with you on that as well.
Yeah.
And so Don Gully. I believe the Monsterverse did a great job of expanding Godzilla's popularity, which thank you for that. Yes, absolutely.
Agreed.
Do wish the human characters were a little bit more consistent. And yeah, there is something about that where other recurring series, film series, television series, whatever, human characters really can make or break a franchise. And I think that it's it's sad to see not enough of that. And I always felt like, they kept killing off the characters too. And I kept saying, quit doing that. They're gonna bring us through this together. And it's like, no, they're dead now. So I just felt like,
well,
more.
so I'm gonna play devil's advocate and say that I know, like, for Godzilla films, like, there's a lot to do. Like, you got to develop human characters, but you also have to develop the kaiju as characters, right? I think one thing that I wish I would have seen more, like, I would have loved to see more of, like, Mothra versus Rodan, obviously, in that film. But, like, one of my big points of irritation, it's a Mothra related point of irritation. In the novelization and, like, in the promotional materials leading up to the film, they would, like, repeatedly be like, Mothra's god rays can be weaponized and used in, a weaponized fashion. Did we see that? All we saw was her cast away clouds. We didn't really get to see her use those abilities against anyone. So I was just like, I feel like that could have been a missed opportunity there.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
but we'll
absolutely.
see what they do with Godzilla vs. Kong's sequel, because my spidey senses are tingling. I think Mothra's going to be in it.
I really hope so. Yeah.
I'm tweeting at Legendary almost every day about it.
See if they respond. Yeah, enough of that. Maybe they will. Sometimes fans outcry enough and they listen. Most of the time they don't. They're Hollywood. So.
I have no problem being a loudmouth, so...
I'm going to give us the chance to do some plugging away, but there was something that I actually wanted to ask you that don't ask everyone, but it comes down to the aspects of these films, the kaiju films. A lot of people kind of gravitate towards, this is something I can talk a lot about. This is something that I always found redeeming out of them, whether it's the writing, the music, the human characters, the special effects, what aspect of them do you find yourself really digging into that you could talk at length about mostly? Is it the writing, the music, the whatever that you could say, yeah, this one, this creator was behind that aspect and I really appreciated what they did about that?
I would argue that for me, I always gravitate to the writing and the music, as you probably guessed, right? Mostly because I really think that the writing and the music are the skeletal structure of a film. Like, they almost act as characters themselves. If the writing is not strong, the rest of the film is not going to be strong. If the music isn't strong, the rest of the film is likely not going to be strong. Because, like, those two crucial components, like, in many ways can help people overlook a kind of a boring character, or special effect slip-ups here and there, depending on the situation. But between those two things, I also really gravitate to the themes. Like, I really love placing myself in the shoes of, like, well, here is the relationship between the media and the audience. Like, what is this media doing for specific audiences? And is it a positive or negative thing, or is it beyond being positive or negative? So
absolutely, yeah. Adrian says, yeah, writing and music are what makes a film, especially a Godzilla film. Yeah, and I absolutely agree, because if take the visual effects but don't have the great music score from Akira Fukube, it's like, what are you left with? Masaru Sato, that seems like it's so empty without it. And I love visual effects too. I love Eiji Tsuburaya. I love what he was able to do, and but yeah, if you don't have the nuts and bolts of the writing, so I assume, yeah, you could probably name off some of your writers that are just like, they hit it home. They hit home runs with you. name a few that, yeah.
I would say, like, I know, I am really terrible with names. Like,
Oh,
when it
and I
comes to,
put you on the spot, I'm
it's
sorry.
kind of an atrocity. I'm terrible with the names when it comes to the writers. I should be better with that. I think that the writers for, uh, I would say the film Godzilla Mothra King Ghidorah,
Yes.
probably like phenomenal, because they obviously were able to take and reinvent the characters in such a refreshing way, right? Like I think writers are their strongest when they are experimenting and growing, and doing things that are unexpected.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion, though. So that's my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. If you can throw a curveball and do something unexpected, if it's predictable, you've lost me already, and I think there's enough films out there. I'm just like, wow, didn't see that one come. No, I did actually. So,
Yeah.
but anyways, we're going to wrap things up here. And this has been a great conversation. We've had a great chat with our kaiju family in here. And I want all of them to, just keep continuing to produce this great content. It for me personally, don't do it for your thousands of fans out there. Do it for me personally, because I love seeing what other kaiju content creators are doing, and I monitor what you guys are doing, and I love to just surround myself. I could listen to politics, I could listen to whatever else, and I would rather fill my life with more of what I'm interested in, which is what you guys are producing, and just keep it up. I'd rather support what you do. So in that vein, give you the chance to plug not only your YouTube kaiju content creation, but also your books.
Thank you. Thank you. So if you want to get either of my books, Feats of Alchemy or Carbon Footprint, you can find them on Amazon. Just type in Donny Winter and one of these titles, and you'll find them pretty easily. If you just want a direct copy from me, you can email me. I will sign it for you. Like, that's fun, right? Let's see what else. So YouTube, my main YouTube channel, Donny Winter. If you would like to go subscribe to it, I'd greatly appreciate it. Check out the episode that Nick and I just did of Growing Up with Godzilla, because we had a really awesome conversation about content creation, like grandiose characters, so many different things. So, if you get a chance to watch the other episodes of Growing Up with Godzilla, please do. There's been some phenomenal conversations, and I think that sharing each other's stories about how we've grown with the franchise and the characters, like, I think they help us develop a stronger appreciation for the characters and the franchise as well.
All right, excellent. So yeah, check out Donny's books on Amazon and on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Follow him and keep up with the great content that he is producing. Like, subscribe, comment, all those great things. Notification bells. I don't even know if they work anymore. Sometimes
I always forget about the notification bell thing. It's so important.
Sometimes sometimes I wonder if it works. Sometimes I wonder if even they're messing around with that algorithm.
Who
And
knows? They probably are.
it's hard telling what they're doing out there. But support kaiju content creation, support Donny Winter and his channel. And I'm looking forward to what next you've got coming out. I know you've probably got plenty of episodes in the can and are coming out here soon. And so I know you produce on a schedule, don't you?
I do. So, like, I'm being nerdy, and I swear this is going to be the last thing I blab about, because I've been blabbing a lot. So, I kind of think of my shows in like seasons, like television. So, like, the Growing Up with Godzilla is going to go all the way until December. There's going to be a month off, and then season 2 is going to start next year. I'm already plotting out episodes for that too. So, and if anybody is interested in being a guest, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Like,
Apparently,
if you're a content creator, yes, like, Adrian's going to be on my show. Like, if you would like to reach out to me and have a conversation with me and be on the show, let me know. I'd be happy to have you.
Absolutely. So reach out to Donny. Donny, it's been great having you. And we definitely need a collab effort in the future in some way. Yeah. We'll pick a topic.
It'll happen.
We'll just pick a topic and just plug away at that topic, and just there'll be lots of great perspective and I look forward to that again, because this is the kind of stuff that I always look forward to, is speaking to other kaiju fans, because we're speaking the same language. Like I've said, we could come from completely different backgrounds, and it's like, it doesn't matter. Politics aside, lifestyles, everything, all that aside, we're here to have some fun and talk about those entertaining creatures of film history. My tagline, my shameless tagline. So, but anyways,
thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's been an honor to participate and have this conversation with you.
All right. Thank you again. And stick around a few minutes after we go off the air so we can say our proper goodbyes. And for all of you who are in the chat, thank you so much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, comment, and all of those great things. And this has been Nick Adam Poling on the Monster Report with guest Donny Winter. We will catch you next time. Thank you.
Bye.